What if the most life-changing moment of your existence did not happen in a grand ballroom, did not happen under a decorated sky, did not happen when you were fully prepared with the right words and the right clothes and the right confidence? But instead, it happened inside a small, dark tent in the middle of the night when the whole world was sleeping, and someone you never expected leaned close to you and whispered words so softly that only your heart could truly hear them? What if that one whispered sentence, that one breath, that one moment of unexpected closeness completely shattered everything you thought you knew about yourself, about loyalty, about friendship, and about the terrifying, beautiful, unstoppable force that we call love? What if I told you that within that single moment lived an entire universe of questions? Questions about who you are, what you truly feel, what you truly deserve, and whether the love that finds you in the dark is actually more honest than the love that performs itself under bright lights? Stay with me, because what I am about to share will reach into your chest and rearrange something deep inside you. And by the time this is over, you will never look at an unexpected moment the same way again. What if the greatest love story of your life began not with roses, not with candlelight, not with a perfectly planned confession, but with a zipper slowly opening on a tent in the middle of the night, with the sound of the entire world going silent, and with someone leaning into your space and whispering two words that would echo inside your soul for the rest of your days? Just relax. Love. And I want you to truly understand what I mean when I say this word. Love is not a greeting card. Love is not a beautifully filtered photograph. Love is not a scheduled appointment where two people sit across from each other and politely discuss their feelings. Love is a wild, unannounced, completely unreasonable force that arrives without asking your permission, arrives without checking whether the timing is convenient, arrives without caring whether the situation is appropriate or complicated or confusing or dangerous. Love walks into your tent at midnight and sits beside you and breathes, and suddenly the air in that small space becomes the most important air you have ever inhaled in your entire life. I want to talk to you today about the love that ambushes you, the love that does not announce itself, the love that arrives in the form of a person you were never supposed to feel anything for, your friend's sister, your neighbor's cousin, the person sitting 3 seats away from you in a room full of people. And that love reaches out and touches something inside you so deeply and so precisely that you forget for a moment what your own name is. Because that is what real love does. Real love, when it finally finds the right moment, does not knock politely on your front door. It crawls through the back window in the darkness and sits in the corner of your heart before you even realize it has arrived. Think about what it means to be in a tent. Think about the physical reality of that space. Small, enclosed, intimate, separated from the rest of the world by nothing more than a thin layer of fabric. Outside that tent, there are stars, there is wind, there are other people sleeping, there are other conversations happening. There is an entire noisy, complicated world continuing to function without pause. But inside that tent, there is only the sound of 2 people breathing. There is only the warmth of proximity. There is only the electricity that runs between 2 human beings when they are close enough to each other that the usual social armor stops working, when the performance we put on for the world every single day becomes impossible to maintain, when something raw and honest and unfiltered rises to the surface. And she whispered, "No one will know." Now I want you to sit with those 3 words for a moment. No one will know. Because here is what I believe about love in its most honest and confronting form. Love that asks you to keep it secret is love that is already asking you a question. And that question is this: are you brave enough to honor what you truly feel, or will you spend the rest of your life pretending that this moment never happened? Love that hides is love under pressure. And just like a diamond is formed under pressure, some of the most real and permanent things in human existence are forged in moments of secrecy, in moments of confusion, in moments where every logical part of your brain is telling you to be careful while every emotional part of your soul is leaning forward. Love, and hear me when I say this, love is simultaneously the most terrifying and the most clarifying experience available to a human being. When you are in the presence of someone who makes your pulse change rhythm without doing anything at all, when you are in the presence of someone whose proximity rewires your thoughts and makes the familiar world look completely different, you are not experiencing weakness. You are experiencing the full power of your own humanity. Because we were built for connection. We were not built to be islands. We were built to reach toward each other, to find each other, to recognize each other across complicated situations and messy circumstances and inconvenient truths. But here is where love demands something extraordinary from you. Here is where love separates those who experience it deeply from those who only skim the surface of it. Love, when it arrives in complicated packaging, when it arrives as your friend's sister, when it arrives as someone you were not supposed to want, when it arrives in the dark, when no one is watching. Love in that moment is not asking you to betray anyone. Love in that moment is asking you to be honest, with yourself first, with the world second, because you cannot pour genuine, lasting, soul-nourishing love out of a vessel that is full of denial and pretense and comfortable lies. The tent is a metaphor. The tent is every private moment you have ever had where your true self showed up, uninvited, and asked to be recognized. The tent is every conversation you ever had at 3 a.m. when the carefully constructed version of yourself collapsed and the real you, the scared, hopeful, deeply feeling real you, finally got a chance to speak. We all have a tent. We all have a space in our inner life that is small and enclosed and separated from the noise of the world, where the people we truly are come to breathe. And love enters that tent. Love always finds its way into that private space. And when it does, you have a choice. You can choose to silence it. You can choose to roll over and stare at the wall and pretend you felt nothing. Pretend the moment was nothing. Pretend that the whisper in the dark was nothing. And you can walk out of that tent in the morning with your loyalty intact and your secret buried and your heart quietly cracking along a new fault line that will eventually, over time, break open completely. Or you can choose to acknowledge what you feel. Not recklessly. Not without thought, but honestly. You can choose to look at the complicated, inconvenient, perfectly timed arrival of love in your life and say, this matters. What I feel matters. And I am not willing to pretend that it does not. Because here is the deepest truth about love that I want to leave buried in your heart today. Love does not become less real because the circumstances are complicated. Love does not become less valid because the timing is wrong. Love does not disappear because you ignore it. It simply changes shape. It becomes longing. It becomes regret. It becomes the story you tell yourself at 40 about the night in the tent when everything was possible and you chose safety over truth. The whisper said, just relax. And I think that is actually the most profound instruction love ever gives us. Just relax. Stop fighting the feeling. Stop categorizing it before you understand it. Stop rushing to decide whether it is appropriate or inappropriate, convenient or inconvenient, wise or unwise. Just relax into the truth of what you feel for one honest moment. Because in that moment of relaxation, in that moment of surrender to genuine feeling, you will learn more about yourself than any self-help book has ever been able to teach you. Love arrived that night not to destroy anything. Love arrived to reveal something. It revealed the depth of your capacity to feel. It revealed the complicated terrain of human loyalty and human desire and human connection. It revealed that your heart is not a simple, well-organized filing cabinet. Your heart is a vast, unpredictable landscape full of territories you have never explored and emotions you have never named and connections you have never fully understood. And what you do with that revelation, how you carry it, how you honor it, how you allow it to shape you into someone more self-aware and more compassionate and more fully alive. That is the real story, not the tent, not the whisper, not the secret, but the person you become because you were brave enough to feel something real in a world that is constantly telling us to feel only what is convenient and appropriate and publicly acceptable. Love that finds you in the dark is still love. Love that arrives in complicated circumstances is still love. Love that whispers instead of shouts is still love. And you, sitting with all of your confusion and your loyalty and your fear and your longing, you are not wrong for feeling what you feel. So let me bring you back to where we began. That tent, that darkness, that whisper. What that moment truly represented was not a betrayal of friendship. It was not a scandal waiting to happen. It was the universe placing something real and profound directly in your path and asking you one simple question. Are you paying attention? Are you awake enough to recognize love when it arrives in unexpected packaging? Are you honest enough with yourself to acknowledge the full range of what your heart is capable of feeling? Love does not wait for perfect conditions. Love does not wait for your schedule to clear. Love arrives when it arrives, in the form it chooses, through the person it selects, at the hour it determines. And your only job, your most important and most sacred job as a living, breathing, feeling human being, is to meet it with honesty, with courage, with kindness toward yourself and toward others, and with the deep understanding that every love that ever found you was trying to teach you something essential about who you truly are.